I'm Ted Keys in Pasadena, California. Welcome to my Tuesday conference call, a free, high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing freight agents. Go to tedkeysonline.com for complete call information. Then join us weekly to see new, serious, struggling, and experienced sales professionals move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. So watch my recorded call topic highlighted there on your screen right now. Then go to tedkeysonline.com and hear more podcasts, read more blog posts, watch more videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. Enjoy watching and applying my Tuesday conference call. Let me just go ahead and mute everybody out here, and then I'm going to start my call. Bear with me. Hello and welcome to my Tuesday conference call. I'm Ted Keys, your top freight agent training expert here in Pasadena, California. This is a free high-powered meeting I hold live every Tuesday for top producing freight agents at 2 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Eastern time. On the call today, I'm going to show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And that is why we do this. One of the main reasons, and that is to make more money financially. And after the call today, go to tedkeysonline.com to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and I do have many of them. And while you're there at my website, visit my Freight Sales Success Store to see my top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. When you visit my Freight Sales Success Store, you'll see a number of products available for purchase. First product you'll see available is my flagship product. That will be my Freight Sales Success Guide for beginner and struggling freight agents that have just come into the industry. If you're searching for motivation, then opt for my Freight Sales Success quotes. These quotes will get you motivated to continue picking up the phone and continue connecting with the marketplace. Something that is of vital interest, because you will not survive if you don't connect with the marketplace. If you're looking for specific freight moving skills, then go with my Freight Sales Success skills. These are individual skills that'll lead you from start to finish to getting connecting with the marketplace, getting a load posted, getting it in motion, getting it picked up, getting it delivered, and connecting with your customer base. All these products available for sale in my Freight Sales Success Store. And while you're taking in all of this free information, while you're there, go to my contact page. Just look up to the top of my website there, to my home page. There'll be a contact, click on it. And what you're going to do is when you get there, listen to my video and enter your contact details. What that's going to do, it's going to send you a weekly invite to this and every call. You're going to get personally invited to this and every call. Another thing that's going to happen is by getting on my contact list and getting invited, you're going to receive the attachments that I go over for each and every call. Another highlight by getting on my contact list and getting that invite is you're going to receive my free report, 11 Ways Freight Agents Will Increase Their Income. Just go ahead and do all that, what I just told you. Read this document. It will assist you on increasing your income. Also, it's a report that's been downloaded thousands of times before. And if you have any questions today, or are you ready, more specifically, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. My contact number is 626-309-9141. Today's training topic, speaking of attachments, today's training topic is best guidelines for quoting freight rates. Again, my topic for today, freight training topic, is your best guidelines for quoting freight rates. For those of you that are on my contact list, go to any one of those email invites that I sent you today. Just go ahead and go to that email and scroll down to the bottom of it. There are a number of attachments, as I talked about earlier. These are the attachments that I am going over today for this topic, best guidelines for quoting freight rates. Now, just go ahead and open that first attachment. That actually would be the second attachment. What we're going to talk about first is trailer types. Now, for those of you that have just come into the profession and that you have just come into our office, there are three main types of freight, three main trailer types that we are searching for. Another thing that I'll go over with is if you're new to our freight sales team, if you're new, you're going to search for domestic freight. That is in the US and Canada, those of you that are new to our freight sales team. So not only are you searching for domestic freight in the United States and Canada, you're not looking for any ocean freight, you're not looking for any freight that goes through the air, you're searching for freight that fits these three trailer types that I'm going to go over right now. That first trailer type that you are going to search for freight that goes in to this trailer type, and that is dry vans. Dry vans. What are the fundamentals of dry vans? Well, the fundamentals of dry vans are typical dry van loads are utilized and transported on either a full truckload, that is just a full truckload, or a less than truckload, either LTL or a partial truckload. All of these go in what's called a dry van. Now, a full truckload is a full trailer. Just real quickly. A full truckload is a full trailer, full dry van trailer. An LTL, less than truckload, typically is for 1 through 4 pallets, and a partial truckload typically takes up 8 to 30 feet. Now, what's important here is that you must know the interior dimensions of the trailer to ensure that your shipment will fit in there properly. However, the dry van illustrations that I'm going to talk about, they are going to assist you. They're also in the diagram in the attachment that I sent you. And those trailer specifications and configurations are standard in the industry with dry vans, and they typically measure 48 feet long. Okay, dry vans are typically 48 feet long. They are 96 feet high and 102 inches wide. 48 feet is not standard, but there are dry van trailers out there that are 48 feet long. Your more common type of dry van lengthwise is 53 feet. Again, your more common type of dry van is 53 feet long with the same dimensions, 102 feet wide and 96 inches high. These are these are specifications for dry van freight. Your maximum load weight for a dry van trailer is typically 45 to 45.5 on the weight. 45,000 to 45,500 pounds on the weight. That is typically the most weight that you can fit into a dry van. It's not a weight that you typically want to go after because it usually is somewhat challenging for the carrier, but that is the standard maximum weight that goes into a dry van trailer. Now, let's go ahead and move forward to that next attachment. That next attachment or that next type of trailer are for flatbed trailers. Next trailer that we're going to talk about are flatbed trailers. The fundamentals of a flatbed trailer are flatbeds are the preferred way to move loads that are not enclosed. These are trailers that are not enclosed, like a dry van trailer that I just talked about. Examples of flatbed loads include large equipment, building materials, and heavy machinery. An advantage to a flatbed trailer is that it can be loaded from the sides, top, or behind it. Flatbed trailer allows for greater flexibility, which make them the optimal choice for these loads. And if you can see by the diagram here, there are several different types of flatbed trailers. There are standard. Standard are your typical 48 feet long. There are step deck trailers. There are enclosed trailers. There are curtain vans and Conestogas that are considered flatbeds, where the actual curtains either slide back or they slide up, again making it available for you to load the trailer from any vantage point. Your standard weight for a standard flatbed trailer can go up to 48,000 pounds. Standard for a flatbed trailer, again this is typically on a 48-foot flatbed trailer, is 48,000 pounds. Again, the thing about a flatbed trailer, very, very versatile. Again, some loads of yours on a flatbed will require a tarp, some won't. That's basically something that your customer prospect will explain to you when you do the load for them. Let's move on to that third trailer type. And that third trailer type is for a reefer trailer. Again, 3 standard trailer types as a starting freight agent with our office that you will pursue: dry van freight, flatbed freight. The third type here is called a reefer. What are the fundamentals of a reefer? Well, a refrigerated van, or reefer as it's referred to, is an insulated food grade trailer with a sophisticated refrigeration system that's actually built into it. It's a trailer designed to transport foods or other commodities that require temperature controls. Temperature is usually on the cold side, not the hot side. Alrighty, and refrigerator commodity trucking is divided into 2 groups. Those 2 groups, the first one would be called chilled for reefer freight. Chilled generally consists of fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. Chilled is typically in the 40 to 60 degree range. There's also frozen, the frozen category, which generally consists of meat, seafood, and frozen products. Now, there are tracking systems, typically there are tracking systems in a reefer that logs the time and temperature for the duration of the trip that your carrier will have for you. Therefore, an audit of that temperature is possible. So if there's any discrepancies, you can actually go to that tracking system to make sure that the reefer contained the temperature that you required for each one. Now, your reefer, again, standard is either 48, 53 feet long. Dimensions are the same, 102 feet wide by 96 high. But again, there's 2 different lengths, 48 feet and 53 feet. Your standard maximum weight that you can put into a reefer is typically around 44,000 pounds. That's what the standard tractor pulling this type of load. So your standard weight is going to be in the 44,000 pound range. So those 3 common types of trailers are the type of freight that you will search and go after as a starting freight agent with our office. One more time: dry van, flatbed, and reefer freight. Now, again, I told you earlier that our topic for today is best guidelines for quoting freight rates. Best guidelines for quoting freight rates. So go ahead and open up that next attachment down there at the bottom of your email here, and we're going to talk about my guidelines for quoting freight rates. So just go ahead and open up that next attachment here, and we're going to talk about my guidelines, our office guidelines for quoting freight rates. Now, let me go over a couple vital points before we actually get into my guidelines for quoting freight rates. There's 6 vital points that I'm going to go after real quickly. The first point is, and make sure you pay attention to this and make sure you put check marks as I go over each one. Vital points, and that is that your prospects and customers will continually request freight rates from you. Your prospects and customers will continually request freight rates from you. Important point number 2 is you must quote them every time they request a rate from you. You must quote them every time they request a rate from you. That's vital point number 2. Vital point number 3, you must quote them rates to gain and keep their business. If you just quote them lanes that you only want to, trust me, they will not pay attention to you. Even if you respond with a good rate, If they don't see that you're serious about quoting them rates, they will not pay attention to you. So, third point, you must quote them rates to gain and keep their business. The fourth important point is you must master this skill. This is a skill you must master to gain success in this industry and in this profession. Again, it's a skill that you must master. Fifth important point is that freight rates vary for all lanes across the US and Canada. Every single lane that you will quote is different from the last lane that you quoted. Every single lane is different from every other lane in this country and the US. Don't think that just because you quoted $1.50 a mile on the last lane that you're going to quote $1.50 a mile on this lane, and they're totally different lanes. Every single lane is different, and that's point number 5. Point number 6 is that you're going to take the following action to obtain your freight rates. That's my 6th point. You're going to take the following action to obtain your freight rates for your prospects and customers. So the first thing you have to do is you have to come up with important variables when a freight rate is required. And here are the important variables that are required for each freight lane that you do. The variables for your these are the variables that you have to get from your prospects and customers, by the way. Variables required from your prospects and customers. You can't obtain these just by guessing. They have to come from your prospect or your customer. And that is, you got to get the weight of the load. You got to get the weight of the load. You got to find out what it is or get the commodity of the load. Second thing going on, you've got to get the pickup city and you got to get the pickup state for each load. You got to get the pickup date. Now, when it comes to posting this, you're typically going to put today's date, but in reality, if this load doesn't pick up until next week, you got to find that out from your prospect and customer. You got to get the delivery city and the delivery date. I take that back. You got to get the delivery city and the delivery state, and you also have to get the delivery date. Okay, again, when you're posting this, you're typically gonna post tomorrow as your delivery date. But again, this is only for posting purposes. Another thing you have to get, another variable, is you have to get the equipment type and you have to get the length of the trailer. That is this going to fit onto a 48 or a 53 foot length trailer? Another thing you have to do is you have to get the trailer length. How much length of the trailer will this take up? Meaning, is this a full truckload? Is it going to take up the full length of the trailer? Is it a partial? Again, I talked about it earlier. That is 8 to 30 feet, or is this an LTL? Typically 1 to 4 pallets. Again, this will take up anywhere from 1 to 8 feet. Here's the variables that you have to get. Another thing you have to, one more before I go into the variable, is the type of trailer. Is it going to be a reefer? Is it going to be a drive-in? Or is it going to be a flatbed? Those 3 types that I just talked about earlier. And here's the variables that are going to be required from you to get the rate for your customer, to get the freight rate. And that is, you got to figure out the miles. Typically, I'm going to tell you to go to Google Maps, learn how to use Google Maps. You will use this continually, day after day after day. Why? Because you have to get the miles. That's something that you can acquire. Acquire it from Google Maps. And the second variable that you require, this is what you have to get, is you have to get the start pay. What do I mean by that? The start pay is the starting pay that you're going to post on the load board when you actually post this load to take calls from carriers. What is the start pay? Well, the start pay I'm going to talk about on the next page. So go ahead to that next page, and we're going to talk about the start pay and how to calculate it. Now, there's 5 important points. Again, we're going to go over a lot of data today. There are 5 important points that you have to remember about your start pay. And that is point number 1, your freight carriers. Okay, I talked about this earlier about posting your load every time if you don't know what the rate is. The first point about it, calculating your start pay, is that freight carriers are the main source to gather freight rates. Real simple. Freight carriers are the main source to gather freight rates. There are these programs out there that are tied to certain websites, and you're going to call me and you're going to say, well, DAT said that this lane is paying X amount. And I'm going to tell you, where did I ever tell you to go to DAT? Your best source to gather freight rates is from the marketplace, meaning from actual carriers. That is the best and the only source that I am going to teach you. Just by going to DAT, that is the lazy way. A lot of those lanes are outdated. A lot of those freight rates are outdated. You are going to go to the marketplace. The second point about calculating start pay is that freight carriers' main interest, their main interest is what does the load pay? What does the load pay? When they call you, you're going to give them a bunch of information. I'll tell you right now, the main thing they want to hear is what does the load pay? The third vital point in calculating start pay is that start pay is the initial starting pay. Okay, it's the initial starting pay rate to post on the load boards to start getting your calls coming in. So start pay is the initial starting pay rate to post on the load boards to get those calls coming in. The fourth point is that your starting pay is just the starting point. It's only the starting point. It's not what you're going to be paying the carriers. It's only the starting pay that you will quote to the carriers. And the fifth vital point concerning the start pay is that the start pay calculator that I'm going to talk about will determine your start pay. Now, what is the start pay calculator? You have to first go to your start pay calculator, and then that will be your start pay, and then that start pay is what you will post on the load boards to get your calls coming in. So basically, what is the start pay calculator? Well, here it is. Real simple for dry vans. For dry vans, your start pay calculator is the number of miles. Take the number of miles. Again, you're going to get that from Google Maps, the number of miles, and calculate that times 150. Now, when I say 150, I mean 1.50. That is your start pay for dry vans. Your start pay for reefers, real simple, the number of miles times 1.75. And when I say 1.50, 1.75, that's basically $1.50 a mile, $1.75 a mile for reefer. So again, your start pay for dry vans, $1.50 a mile. So you'll take that 1.5 times your miles, reefers, 1.75 times your mile. Is it a dry van LTL? Again, dry van LTL, less than truckload. Then you're going to take your number of pallets. If you just got one pallet, you're going to times that by 100. Two pallets, times that by 100. That'll be $200. That'll be your start pay. Is it reefer LTL that you're doing? Well, it'll again be the number of pallets, and you're going to multiply that times $150 per pallet. So dry van LTL will be 100 times the number of pallets. Reefer LTL will be 150 times the number of pallets. Is it a dry van partial? Okay, again, we're just going through the list here. Is it a dry van partial? Then take the number of feet. Again, partial is 8 to 30 feet. Just take the number of feet and multiply that by $50. The number of feet times $50. That is your dry van partial. Is it reefer partial? Then you're going to take your number of feet and multiply that times 100. Okay, so just real quickly, you have 20 feet of dry van. 20 times 50 is $1,000. That's your start pay, real simple. Is it reefer partial? 20 feet. 20 times 100 is $2,000. That's your start pay for your reefer LTL. Let's keep going on to flatbed here. Again, a lot of data, a lot to remember here, but just go ahead and look at the guide, look at the attachment that I'm going over right now. All these start pays are in that middle section here. Let's talk about flatbed with a tarp. Your flatbed requires a tarp. Well, then you're going to take your number of miles times 2. Dry van is the number of miles times 1. I take it back, a number of miles times 150. Reefer, number of miles times 175. Flatbed, full load, full truckload is your number of miles times $2. Is it a flatbed with no tarp? Then you're just going to take your number of miles times 1.75 or $1.75 a mile. Is it flatbed LTL? Again, 1 to 4 pallets. Just take the number of pallets, multiply that times $200. Is it flatbed LTL with no tarp? Again, number of pallets times 150. Is it flatbed partial? Flatbed partial. Flatbed partial will be the number of feet times $100. And flatbed, again, that's flatbed with a tarp. Again, number of feet times $100. Flatbed no tarp partial, number of feet times $75. Here's 3 more points to remember. Again, 3 more points to remember. And that is your start pay is calculated with the variables that I just talked about on the previous page. You got to take those variables that I talked about. Pickup city, delivery city, pickup state, delivery, pickup day, delivery date. You have to take all these into consideration, those variables, to come up with your start pay. So your start pay is calculated with the variables that I talked about on your previous page that I went over earlier. Second point is your start pay is only a starting rate to post on the load boards. Your start pay is only a starting pay. Remember, it's only a starting pay to post on the load boards that we utilize here. 1 second. Third major point is your start pay is usually far less than the carrier freight rate. Excuse me, guys. Third point again is your start pay is usually, typically, far less than the carrier freight rate that you'll actually negotiate with your carrier. So 3 main points there. So what's going to happen then? You're going to take your start pay in addition to all of the variables that I talked about two pages earlier, is you're going to place them on the next document there, which is called the required post information sheet. Take all those variables and place them on the required post information sheet. What you're going to do is you're going to copy a blank form many times so this sheet here is readily available for you. You're going to enter the load variables below from your rate requests. You're going to enter all those variables here on your required post information or the freight load, and you're going to transfer these to the open posting page of whatever load board that you do. So you're going to take all of these variables here, put them down, okay, along with the start pay down here, and then you're going to post them to the load boards that you will utilize to get carriers to call you on this load you have posted. Again, a lot of information here, but pay attention. This has to be done for every single load that you do. So then, take that required post information that I just went over, along with the start pay, and then we're going to talk about the last 9 points. The last 9 points about the formula that you use for acquiring your freight rates. 9 important points. Again, 9 important points that I'm going to go over here right now. Pay attention. Again, they're very important. The first point is this, guys. The first point is this, is that you're going to post your freight load, take all that information that I just talked about on the required post information. You're going to take that and you're going to put it on your open postings of any load board that you utilize, okay? Take all that information, all right, and put it on any load board that you utilize. That's point number 1. Point number 2, you're going to enter today. Put today's date as the pickup date. Why do you do that? Because you're going to get the most calls from carriers if your pickup date is today's date. You're going to enter your start pay. Okay, we talked about that earlier. From the dry van, the flatbed, the reefer, enter your start pay, which you calculated on the previous page. That's point number 3. Enter your start pay, which you calculated from that previous page earlier, that previous page that I talked about earlier, those 2 pages ago. Fourth point, your fourth major point here to wrap this up here, and that is enter a period. Okay, when you're posting this on the load boards, to enter a period where it requests a pickup time and a delivery time. Basically, it's not important. Your pickup time and your delivery time are not important. So wherever it says pickup time, delivery time, just enter a period to make it simple. Point number 5 on your formula for acquiring your freight rates, the last 9 points, and that is your freight load. Once you post this, okay, certainly on the load board that we use, your freight load is going to go to 40 plus load boards once it's posted. Now, we utilize LDI freight. LDI freight is tied to 40 different load boards. Some of you that are listening are going to use other load boards, but when you utilize LDI freight, once you post that on LDI freight, it's going to automatically go to 40 different load boards. It's just going to shoot out there to that many load boards. That's how many load boards we utilize at LDI and LDI freight. Now, next point, point number 6. For the carriers that call you, give them all the posted variables. All right, for the interested carriers that call you, give them all the posted variables when they call. Point number 7. Point number 7, as you give them the information, you're going to negotiate the best rate with them. And guys, you're going to adjust your start pay if required after the first call. What I mean by that is this. If your start pay is $1,000, okay, and your carrier says, I'll do that for $2,000, what that's telling you is that your start pay is way too low. And again, it's low for a reason. The last thing you want is your start pay to be higher than what the market will pay for your particular rate or your lane. Your start pay will typically almost always be lower. You want it lower. Even if they say $2,000, at least your start pay is lower, okay? But anyway, negotiate the best rate. That's the first point here. And if your starting pay, if you feel your start pay is too low, again, if that carrier asks for $2,000, well then bring it up to say $1,700. Okay, and see what the remaining carriers call you. See what type of rates that you can negotiate. But don't just keep it where it is if your carriers are asking you for substantially more money. Okay, so that's a most important thing there. What you're going to do is, as these carriers call you, you're going to gather the 3 lowest rates. You're going to gather the 3 lowest rates, and then as an agent of our office, you're going to forward them to me. Point number 8, you're going to gather the 3 lowest rates and then forward them to Ted. We're going to talk about how you're going to do that on the next page, okay? Point number 9. Point number 9 of the, just finishing up here, of these vital points when you're acquiring freight rates, and that is, once you send that to me, that document to me, I'm going to assist you in quoting the best rate to your customer. So once you get those 3 carrier rates, I'm going to assist you in quoting the best rate to your customer. This is all part of the system. It's all got to be done every time a prospect or a customer asks you for a freight rate. But just remember, as you get better and better at this, you don't have to go through this whole system. I'm to the point now where my customers and prospects send me their requests, and I just tell them what the rate is. I don't have to go through all this. But as a beginner, this is what you have to do to gain this skill, which is so required in this profession. Now, here's what I'm going to go over. And what I'm going to go over now is the responses. Here's the responses that carriers may give you after they hear your start pay. I talked about this a little bit earlier, okay, when you said your start pay is $1,000 and they said that they do it for $2,000. Well, basically what that's telling you is your start pay is too low and you have to bring it up. You have to bring it up to where you feel the market is on that lane. But I'm going to go over some responses that carriers may give you after you give them your start pay and your start pay is way too low. They may come back with, come on, Or they may say, that's it. I mean, these are pretty exaggerated responses. They may say, are you serious? Or they may come back with, are you crazy? Meaning, I usually do that lane for $2,000 and you're offering me $1,000. These are all typical responses that carriers will give you. So what that means is when you hear them, don't hide in a corner, okay? All that's telling you is that your start pay is way too low. Now, here's your response. Again, here's your response to the carriers after they give you, or after they give you these types of responses, or after they question your start pay, all right? Here's what you're gonna come back with. You're gonna come back with, and again, be quick, all right? Be quick, because your carrier may start to hang up after you after hearing what you gave them as a start pay. So be real quick with your response here. Your response is this. It's either going to be, I'm not familiar with this lane, okay? Your response, I'm not familiar with this lane, or I'm just posting this for a rate. One of two options. You're either going to say, I'm not familiar with this lane, okay? Or your second option is, I'm just posting for a rate. Follow that up with either option you use there, follow it up with, for what rate will or would you do this load within reason? For what rate would you do this load within reason? Really stress within reason, because if you don't stress that, they're going to tell you, I'll do it for $3,000. I'll do it for $5,000. Really stress within reason, but because by saying within reason, you're keeping your carrier in check, and you want them to agree with a rate that you can then cover with the truck, either with them or somebody else, and then quote your customer and earn a profit on the load. So really stress, again, for what rate would you do this load within reason? Those are the responses to the carriers after they question your start pay. Again, this is when they come back with these exaggerated responses because your start pay is so low. Let's go ahead and open up that next document. And that next document is the document titled Required Quote Information. Required Quote Information. What it basically says on top is, send Ted your 3 lowest carrier rates. Again, I talked about this document earlier. Send Ted your 3 lowest carrier rates that you received from your open postings on LDI Freight. Send Ted your 3 lowest carrier rates that you received from your open postings. Again, what does it say? Copy this blank form many times so it's ready to use, all right? Enter all load variables below, along with only 3 of your lowest carrier rates. So basically, when you send this to me, this is what you're going to send to me after you've negotiated rates, after you've posted your rate on LDI Freight. You're gonna post the company, but it's not required. You're gonna put down the commodity. What is it? Weight, miles, pickup city, pickup state, delivery city, delivery state, what type of equipment. This is all variables that I have to know to assist you in quoting your rate to your customer. So your equipment, what's the size? Is it a 48 or is it a 53 footer? Is it partial? If it's a partial, what's the number of pallets or the length? Any other additional info? Again, list the carrier rates that you got, that you negotiated from your carriers, and down on the bottom, this is the customer freight rate that I will give you to send to your customer. Again, that is the required quote information sheet. Again, take this, copy it many times, have it at the ready, so you can just fill it out and send to me so I can tell you what you're going to quote your customer. Again, the required quote information sheet. Also, just real quickly, after I tell you the rate to give to your customer, you're also going to open up that next attachment. That next attachment is called the sample rate request response. Sample rate request response. What's important here is this. Your subject heading. This is when you send your rate back to your customer prospect. Subject heading, I have your rate. Real simple. What are their names? Okay, good morning. The important thing to notice here is when you give your customer or your prospect your rate, you're basically going to say good morning. You're going to list the lane that they had you quote. Again, in this case, it's Wilmington, North Carolina to Dallas, Texas. So list where it picks up, where it drops off. Why do you do this? Because your customer may be sending out a whole number of different rates. If you just come back and say good morning, $20.95, they're going to say, what's this for? So you're going to actually list the lane, in this case, Wilmington, North Carolina to Dallas, Texas, the rate, and follow it up with, will this work? Real simple. Will this work? Why do you put that? Because you want them to respond. Whether it'll work or not, your goal is to get them to communicate with you. So this is your sample rate request response document. Let's go ahead and open up that next attachment. And let's talk about rate rejections. Let's talk about rate rejections. Now, important points for rate rejections, and that is always respond to rate requests. Again, always respond to rate requests. Here's some of the initial challenges that you are going to come across when you're given a rate to a prospect or a first-time customer that you're not familiar with. So here's some of the initial challenges, and that is, it's common to have your rates rejected initially when you're building a relationship with your customer. Here are the main reasons why. Well, the common reasons are your price is too high. That's reason number one. Reason number two is your customer doesn't know you yet. That's a common reason why they're going to reject your rate. Reason number three is your customer doesn't trust you yet. And number four is your customer prefers its current carriers. Those are all initial challenges that you're going to face, again, initially when you're building a relationship with a prospect or your customer. Now here's your solution. Here's your solution to these, and that is, if your rate is rejected, if your rate's rejected, just go back to them. Here's your solution. Here, go back to them with the solution, and that is, everyone enjoys receiving a compliment, even you. Everyone enjoys receiving a compliment, even you. So when your rate is rejected, real quickly, when your rate is rejected, use the response that I give to all of my prospects and customers. And what's this going to do? This is going to allow you to continue building that relationship. Here's the response you're going to give them, and that is, that's a great rate. Real simple. If they reject your rate, typically they're going to reject it because your rate's too high, but always come back with, that's a great rate. What else are you working on right now? You basically, submitted, hey, great rate. Typically, it's going to be lower than yours anyway. At least you have an idea of what that lane is paying. So that's a great rate. What else are you working on right now? That is your response when your rate is rejected. Let's move on real quickly. Let's talk about large email contact lists that you may get a hold of. Or that, I mean, it's basically it's important information from your prospect or your customer standpoint, but sometimes they're going to send you a rate request, and you're going to see all of these email addresses. Now, typically, you're going to look at that and say, "Oh my gosh, that's how many different brokers that I'm competing against." I mean, that's your typical response. But let me give you some facts. Okay, let me give you some facts about this type of a freight broker list that some of your prospects have. So let me just give you some facts real quick. Facts about large email lists, like I just showed you above. Point number one, or fact number one, that is, it takes a long time to gather that type of information. Again, it takes a long time to gather this type of broker list. Point number two, this information gets old over time. Point number two, this information gets old over time. Point number three, freight managers, shipping decision makers, shipping managers, they don't update it. It's that simple. It takes a long time to collect, it gets old, and they don't update it. Here's your point number 4. A large amount of the emails, because it's not updated, a large amount of these emails will never get out because it's old information and the emails are old. It's that simple. So point number 5, brokers don't respond. Typical brokers, when they see a list like that, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I have to compete with that many people. Well, your typical broker is going to say, I'm not going to compete with that many people. I'm just not going to respond to this request. And what does that do? For point number 6, here's what happens. The rate responses typically for a load list like this, a freight broker list like this, is anywhere from 5 to 10%. So in reality, if you know the facts about big freight lists like this, only 5 to 10% of the brokers are going to respond to something like this. So really, that's why you always respond to rate requests. That's why you always respond to rate requests, typically because most brokers see them. They say, I'm not going to respond to that. There's too much competition. They go away. You're the one that stands out. You're the one that shows that prospect or customer that you're in it for the long run. Let's go ahead and move on. I know it's a long one today, but let's move on to our last 3 points. Open up that third to the last attachment, and let's talk about remembering important points about these guidelines for quoting freight rates. And that is, remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, I'm going to talk about 3 P's. Preparation plus practice equals professionalism. If there's one thing that you must do when you quote freight rates, is to not only be persistent, but be professional about it. I just gave you the whole guideline on how to do this. I also showed you how to respond to your customer and your prospect with the rate. So 3 P's, remember when you're calling your prospects and customers and responding with your freight rates, 3 P's, you're going to prepare with preparation, you're going to continue practicing, and in the end, you're going to look the most professional when you continue to do this. So 3 P's, preparation plus practice equals professionalism. If there's one thing, your goal is to look professional to your prospect and your customers. Next attachment, remember, when you're calling your prospects and customers, and that is success comes before work only in the dictionary. Why did I bring this up today? Success comes before work only in the dictionary. It is going to take time for you to get good at this. Again, as I said earlier, this is a skill that you must master. And again, success in this area only comes before work in the dictionary, okay? This will take work, all right? You will have to work and work and work at it before you get successful at it. That's why I talked about being successful and working at it. So in reality, success only comes before work in the dictionary. You must work at this over and over again, day after day after day, week after week, to become successful at this particular skill. And typically every skill, but most of all in this skill, because it's so important. You have to be able to quote freight rates to your prospects and customers to become successful. Let's go ahead and open up that last attachment. That last attachment reads, remember when you're calling your prospects and customers, that 100% of your freight sales growth depends on selling and following up. Not only do you have to sell, not only do you have to get on the phone and be placed on your customers and your prospects' freight lists. That's all part of selling, but you have to follow up. Not only follow up where they actually send you their lists, but follow up with your rates. Following up means so many different things. So 100% of your freight sales growth depends on selling, contacting, building a relationship, and following up with them. Again, quoting freight rates is all part of the following up process. Large topic today, but I can't stress how important it is that you master this skill. Again, using the best guidelines that I just went over for quoting freight rates. I can't stress how important this skill is, and that how you get better and better and better at it. In closing today, guys, in closing, question: do you want to receive the email notices and the attachments that I go over each and every call? If that's your goal, if that's your desire, then go to tedkeysonline.com/contacts, listen to my video, and enter your contact details. By doing that, you will receive my weekly conference call invite to this and every call. Also, do you have any questions about what I just went over today? And it was a lot. Do you have any questions about what I just went over, or are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Again, when you join the team, this is what you get. You get this weekly conference call that I go over on so many different important topics. Are you ready to join our team? Then call me, Ted Keys, at 626-309-9141. Such an important topic today. Make sure that you master this skill, as I talked about earlier. Once you master it, you will be the professional in this profession. Take care. God bless. I'll see you again all next Tuesday, same time, 2 p.m. Pacific time and 5 p.m. Eastern time. Again, take care. God bless. I'll see you all again next week on my Tuesday conference call. Bye-bye. You've just taken a tremendous step forward by watching and applying my Tuesday conference call highlight. Do you desire to earn and learn with our top freight team and Christian-based office? Yes? We're searching for a self-starter who's serious, motivated, and ready to take action right now. Is that you? Go to tedkeysonline.com/contacts and enter your contact details. We provide top-notch freight agent sales training to you. Then you deliver those same skills with confidence to the freight industry marketplace. I'll talk to you soon.